Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So, this episode I'm calling Progressives slash Squad Must Call Out Weakness slash Climate Poison Pill in Manchin-Schumer Deal. So, the surprise deal that was worked out between Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer as a kind of the last echo, possibly, of the Build Back Better agenda, now marketed as an Inflation Reduction Act, contains within it a climate about 369, I think it's $369 billion over 10 years for energy and climate investments. And so but it contains within that a climate poison pill. So, and is also extremely weak because the amount that's under $40 billion a year is nowhere near what the climate emergency calls for. And also it's being marketed as enabling 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. I strongly doubt that that's going to come of this bill. Other factors would have to intervene, massive recessions or very, very substantial actions on the part of most states and even private industry, for whatever reason, some of the private industry decides to embark on massive investment programs that are unrelated in a way to this bill and to its incentives and contained within it. I think then maybe you could get something, in the area of 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. But it sounds like happy talk to me. And does it contain some good things in the bill? Yes. Very, very small ones. Incentives for heat pumps, for various renewable energy investments, for electrification. But the major poison pill in it is an enormous doubling of the amount of leasing that the federal government does of, for permitting and leasing of land to fossil fuel interests, and with very slim oversight of that. But even just the whole idea of that being in a quote unquote climate bill is a poison pill for people who care about the climate, because that contradicts what every serious policy organization, obviously what climate scientists say about that we need to be dismantling the fossil fuel industry and not building new extraction projects of any kind to supply us with fossil fuels. We need to be building that down very quickly. It's possible. It's definitely possible certainly with large conservation efforts, but also even with simple energy efficiency efforts. Conservation being, voluntary reduction of usage, of consumption, and then also efficiency being, smarter use of fossil fuels. So anyway, excuse me, I need to use a tissue here. But anyway, this poison pill within this bill is something that the progressives need to call out. And this is not, I'm not taking a position on whether they should vote for it or not. My tendency is to say they should vote for it if they call out the poison pill. In other words, and if they call out the weakness of the bill, and not just assume that's being said, and that they can do that in a way, even that, though I don't like this form of comity between COMITY comedy, or insider Washington buddy buddy politics between members of Congress, in the sense of treating Manchin as a trusted colleague, or even Schumer as a trusted colleague who is beyond criticism. I think they should be criticized at various times. This happens to be one of their better. In other words, this was a surprise that this happened, and it contradicts at least a little bit of what I've been saying about how do nothing the Democratic leadership is. This was a rare defiance of what the GOP wants from the Democrats. And McConnell, in fact, they're trying to take revenge by stopping the Healthcare for Veterans Act by because the GOP is because they don't like these climate provisions that are mild and weak as they are within this reconciliation bill. So anyway, I think that progressives need to make it clear that they're voting for this under some duress and under an acknowledgement of the skewed priorities of certainly Joe Manchin, if not Chuck Schumer. In other words, this kind of deal making should have been done a year and a half ago at a much higher level of spending for it within the Build Back Better agenda framework. And this pressure that was put on Joe Manchin to come to the table should have been applied back then and should have been applied from the get-go. And meanwhile, there's this hands-off attitude toward him. And apparently he is somewhat vulnerable, even in his own mind, to he doesn't want to appear to be a villain for the about this Build Back Better agenda, or just in general obstructing social spending and Medicare cost reduction measures. That, in other words, when he's exposed about these things, he seems to have wanted to come to the table about it. So this effort then is coming too late. So there's a lot of criticism to go around, but primarily what progressives should be focusing on is the future, and that they should be saying, look, we're going to vote for this now, but we're going to try to rip out this poison pill as soon as possible when we have the power to do so. That we're going to try to, I mean, you don't have to use those words. They don't have to be as combative as I'm being right now. They can be. It isn't the style of the current progressives to be so combative. But they can certainly say, look, we need to stop our use of fossil fuels very quickly, and we need to ramp up our investment, public investment and private investment in climate solutions. And this bill goes a little bit toward that, but doesn't go nearly far enough. And when they do that, they are then free, in my opinion, to vote for it with that caveat, and they have a big enough megaphone to right now, at least, I mean, it could be bigger, but to at least make that mark to say, look, we were playing with the team, but also we're criticizing the team. And so, and they could even say, congratulate Joe Manchin and I'm about to say Kristen Sinema and Chuck Schumer for making this deal and for trying, though I think that would be going too far, in my opinion. they can say, we're glad that some progress was made, and at least there's some will there. I mean, I would acknowledge that there's some will there. I wouldn't be going overboard to overpraising, because there's a lot of people and institutions that are overpraising this bill. And I believe in telling the truth, both to the American people and to whomever, and that the more truthful the politicians are, the more trustworthy they are, and also the closer they're going to get to doing the right thing when it comes to climate and a bunch of other things, foreign policy, social spending, a whole bunch of different areas. So, in any case, I think that would. So I'm not. I think just yes, sir, I'm voting for this thing would be a little bit. It's not. It's not totally a defeat, but it is. It doesn't establish the progressive voice that we need pushing the Democratic Party. I mean, they were being pushed already. So that's some of this is due to the pressure. This is not something that these two men were doing in a vacuum. There was pressure from progressives in the left and so forth and so on. And just in general, the climate news this summer is miserable. And there's people are starting to realize that they look like fools if they're doing nothing about the climate. So, but progressives can help by turning up the amplitude, the noise, or turning up the volume on that messaging, because it rarely penetrates the political media bubble within which both Manchin and Schumer are swaddled, and also the American people are swaddled within this bubble where politicians are treated as uncorrupted people with serious ideological differences, when they are often just corrupt actors who are doing the will of the donor class and of their patrons. So anyway, I think this is I think, again, this is a better than nothing bill, with the truth coming out about that it contains a poison pill that needs to be mitigated at the next possible, and that moment, and that should signal also to the fossil fuel industry, for which this was benefit, that literally you're not our friends, you're not really on the team working on climate, and this is a giveaway that is due to the corruption of some of our. I mean, they don't have to use that word corruption if they don't want to. At this moment in time, I think that we need to get more used to talking about the industry patronage of politicians overall, not just Joe Manchin, and but in this particular instance, they can. It doesn't really matter, but they need to say, look, this is a poison pill, and they're gifts to the fossil fuel industry that are we can't give. Okay, that we really or that we can't give without taking back. Okay, at the soonest possible moment, when we have a political will to do that, let's say, or a political majority to do that. So anyway, so that was just an update based on this particular and a positioning advice for politicians, and also for media, if people are so inclined to use social media and so forth and so on to discuss this. This is my take on this particular outcome. Again, it's something of it's a very, very small. It's a very small movement that again contains this negative thing in it. But at least that the fact there was movement is something that at least is a sign that pressure works, and that it does actually validate the original plan, the progressives not voting for the infrastructure bill, this and being there was this bipartisan infrastructure bill that had almost no climate in it. It was separated from the Build Back Better agenda, and they were right because that was the leverage. That was the real big leverage they had. But anyway, apparently there was just a little bit of leverage here on Manchin for which he was able to be swung in this direction. And I think Bernie Sanders has been doing a lot of good PR about this, or political messaging about this as well. So anyway, if please share your thoughts about this particular issue in the comments, and also please like the video if you are liking, if not exactly the message, the presentation or the subject matter. And also please subscribe to Politics 2100 if you think this is a good information slash ideas source. Okay, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.